The opinions expressed in the following are those of its participants and do not necessarily reflect those of the producers and the Six Talk Podcast Network. Also, the following contains mature material and mild language, which may not be suitable for all audiences. Discretion is advised.
This is the Anime Roundtable Canada, presented by Anime North. You can contact us via email, animeroundtable@gmail.com, on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok @Anime Roundtable, and on the web, animeroundtable.com. Well, here we go on this Sunday evening, January 8th, 2023. Akimashite omedetou gozaimasu. As you guys know, I have a habit of saying when we start off the new year. We're in the StreamYard to start off 2023. Mike Nicholas sitting at his perch in 6 points. Kevin Ing, Mohammed Shamarki, James Austin. Well, James and Mo are back. And from their respective perches, Amy isn't feeling too well. She's under the weather this evening. So hopefully Amy's listening to this. Get well soon. You said a lot in a good way 3 weeks ago when we last gathered. Get your rest. And let's start by looking at last episode, I guess. Mo, James, do you have a thought as we start this year?
I think Mo can guide me, okay? So Mo.
I mean, it's Pokemon, man. It's like iconic, like an institution. Like when Amy was talking about it, I'm like, because we're like relatively the same age, so it's like.
Well, Mo.
No, I'm pretty sure, Mo, Pokemon is just a fad. It died out, didn't it?
Mo's, and for reference, I think Mo has been accidentally muted himself. Here, let me unmute that.
Yep. Sorry about that.
Go ahead.
What was I saying? Yep. Yeah. I mean, like it was. It's like seeing something end. It's like when Yu-Gi-Oh ended, right? Then not as big.
The real question is, how will it end for Ash? Is Ash going to get his comeuppance for trapping these poor Pokemon and making them fight his fights and stuff like that, all in the name of friendship?
See,
I believe his goal was to be the best, right? Like no one's ever seen before.
But he should have done it himself, right? And this is supposed to be for children, right? It's concerning.
Who knows? Like it isn't like you do have. We speculated at the time the belief that the new characters are somehow related to Ash.
I don't know about that though, because I feel like I think they were Sun and Moon, right? So I think they're going based on games. So they're going to Sword and Shield, I believe, which would be the English type one, not the Spanish one they're doing now. So I guess they're trying to tie more to the games and the fact that they'll have, I guess, a female and a male trainer and stuff like that. And that's how they're going to go about it. But maybe, I guess, they'll bring certain characters, as we know, back for the fans and stuff like that. But it's interesting how long it's went with Ash, and not just the new cast. And we talk about the English voice and what she has said about the role of Ash. But was there anything from, I think it was Veronica Taylor, wasn't she the original English Ash and stuff like that? Did she say anything?
Veronica Taylor is the first English voice actor for Ash Ketchum, and then it was Sarah Natacheni that took over from season 9 onwards when 4Kids lost the rights to Pokemon,
Because it was Pokemon International, right? They took it back over, I remember, and they recast everything.
Yes, they decided to recast everybody, to my recollection, except for Iko Itani, obviously. And I always felt like, well, alluding to what you said just now, they will be going into Gen 9 this spring. The anime will be based off of the Scarlet and Violet games this coming April in Japan, if I recall correctly. And you could say it was Gen 8 for this last season or two, but as Amy was telling us last episode, they weren't really in the Galar region for a good chunk of the show, and from what I remember, they went to different areas. So, and to me, it was never, not that it was never about Ash being the best, it's just that that whole mantra was just such a thing in the beginning because of how the marketing was pushed, and to me, it was no longer really about Ash being the best that no one ever was. It was just Ash going on an adventure with his friends that he meets along the way. Some people come, some people go, some people come back at various points. And it was just, your daily serial of, this is a boy and his Pikachu going through different lands, seeing new things, catching new Pokemon, getting caught up in different circumstances, still trying to elude Team Rocket.
Were they always doing eating jelly donuts and lifting and holding Pokemon he should humanly not be able to when you actually look at their stats?
Yes, and catching Pokemon that we never see in North America, like how he caught all the Tauros, because that was one of the banned episodes, and so on and so forth.
Well, I'm trying to think of how to word it, but I guess you could see the end coming light at the end of the tunnel, because he finally got, how do I want to put it? He got
Are we talking the championship?
He was using
something like that.
Pokemon.
Like he finally got one, as they say, right? Because he was always coming up short, so to speak. So that was the feeling.
I believe he did win the league in the Sun and Moon series of seasons. I believe I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, Amy mentioned that as well last episode.
I think I dived down it long ago, so it's like, that's how long, so you never know, right?
Yeah, because I wasn't really paying attention to the anime for the most part after season 14 or 15. I think I stopped at season 14 is what I remember saying.
Okay. Well, you mentioned it. It's less about it. Became more a journey and less about the quest to become the best.
That's how it felt to me.
Well, remember that line in the trailer? Shigeru's line? Now that you've become a champion? What was the line in that trailer?
What's next, or what now?
Yeah, basically, what now? I think that it made me think about that when you said all that just now.
Yeah, it's crazy to see how Ash was using a team of mostly fully evolved Pokemon, if I remember correctly, as well.
Mm-hmm.
Which is almost never the case.
Yeah. Well, it has some curiosity, and who knows how Ash's story will end. Will it get more mature? Will they? Or dare I say?
Think we know it's.
Pikachu? Will they kill off Pikachu?
No, they won't.
I hate to say that.
That's the question that I still wonder about, but I think we'll find out in 3 months.
Well, a little more than we'll find out soon anyway.
I don't think they'll get rid of Pikachu. I think it will. I'd be shocked if they did. Pikachu is still the face of the franchise.
Well, I agree with that.
Did they have the 3 starters they were showing them. So I feel like they definitely, Pokemon Company wanted to like have the engine fully revved, you know what I mean? Like cross marketing with the anime, the games, and everything else. You know what I mean? So I think some of that plays into it too.
That's why I thought that the new anime was like the new Scarlet and Violet content, from what we assume, is starting later than I would have expected them to.
How long is this storyline set to go for? Is it
Who
going to
knows?
end in January or this month?
Oh,
Or
so they're now running an epilogue season of sorts.
yes, I've
So
heard that.
that will presumably end in mid to late March. And Pokemon airs every week, barring like weather related things or if something bad happens, who knows? Like, but generally speaking, Pokemon runs every week except for potential holidays or nature events that might affect the broadcast. So I don't think it will really miss a beat. I don't think it'll miss a beat.
Okay. Well, so
anything else we missed from the previous episode?
Well, remember we taped at the end of the World Cup, and
Oh
of course
shit!
there's
Right, how'd
been.
that go?
Well, yeah, I think that's
Well,
all over the
England
news.
lost where we figured they would
So
lose and stuff like that.
therefore, James stopped paying attention.
Well, no, I paid attention enough to see that supposedly Buenos Aires was quite a lively place after the World Cup, and that supposedly the Argentine football team, instead of having a parade, they were helicoptered around or something like that because they couldn't get
Because they
anywhere.
couldn't get around; it was too crowded.
I guess they decided that they were going to have the disappointment at the beginning and lose to Saudi Arabia, and then after that they just went on a tear. But I think some of it was, I think we had talked about that game, the Saudi Arabia game, and it was a misnomer because they had 3 goals that were disallowed from VAR, from replay, and if any of those had been allowed, they probably would have won the game, right? So it's not like they were like completely fluffing it.
No. I mean, there was always this long analysis about the Argentinian team. What are they beyond Messi?
Mm.
That was, I think, some of the criticism. Well, what are they? They're a team, and they won it all. And for reference, just a quick follow up, just starting to reel it back into the Japan side. I did get that Humble bundle, so I do have ebook copies of the first 10 volumes of Blue Lock in my possession in some form. So I'll give myself a little bit of time to read that, and then maybe I'll have a little bit more and more time to watch the anime as well. And we'll talk all about what's on our queues or on our controllers a bit later on. But soccer related wise, and we're going to talk about this right now in the shadow of some really messy stuff going on in Brazil right now. Presently, Brazil might be going through its own January 6th moment as Jair Bolsonaro supporters have stormed a lot of government institutions in Brasilia. This is in the news as we record this episode. Of course, that wasn't the big news, the biggest news probably coming out of Brazil in the last couple weeks on the topic of soccer. Pele. There's this constant talk about the greatest of all time. Is it Messi? Is it Ronaldo? I guess Messi laid his claim at the end of the World Cup 3 weeks ago. But after Pele's death last week, there's this. I'm pretty sure people are reflecting on that discussion a little bit more. So I wanted to just put in my 2 cents just to say maybe the greatest of all time isn't the ones who break the records, it's the ones who set them. Basically, set the bar. Basically, become the guy that everybody else will be compared to. And in many respects, I think that was Pele.
He had a new standard, obviously, of playing soccer, and he played a lot in Brazil, and that's the thing with football, that they play in a lot of different leagues across the globe and stuff like that. And he was one of the first ones to come to North America. Remember the first kick at the can for soccer in North America for a league, and he was one of the ones to come over and try to help kickstart and make it a thing. And it didn't work out as well as they thought compared to Major League Soccer, but he was one of the first ones. And we've seen with Major League Soccer, other aging stars do something similar, try to trailblaze and draw attention to their sport.
Yeah, the way I look at it is, it may not have lasted, but I think its impact is still felt to this day. Pele's time in North America when he played in New York.
And then the exhibition matches with his former team from Brazil, bringing them to Toronto, to New York, to other places, and they played big arenas.
That was how he, how Santos made their money. It's just like there's a lot of little, like Pele's later life, post-career, and all the things he did after he had finished playing. That's what's of note to me now. Because, like, I'm the eldest of the bunch here, but I don't really remember Pele when he played. But I do remember him as a pop culture icon. Right? In 1994, when the US hosted the World Cup, probably one of the key matches, well, not really a key match, but one of the most noteworthy matches was when Brazil and the US faced each other in the round of 16. Obviously, Brazil won that game because obviously they won the whole thing. But what was of note of that was Pele was in attendance for that game. And what I remembered of what he was wearing a suit to that game, but he wore an American flagged tie, which I thought was really telling. Yeah, he understood what the game meant, and that game in many respects was part of his legacy. The World Cup in the US is part of his legacy. And he gave it some legs in North America in the 70s and early 80s. It tripped in the late 80s and early 90s. And then when the game started to get popular again in North America, closer and closer to mainstream, people hearkened back to Pele's attempt. And people looked kindly on Pele's attempts to try and mainstream the game. And he did a lot. I mean, yes, he played for the Cosmos. After coming out of retirement, to spend 3-4 years with them, got them a soccer bowl, an NASL title. He did that, and the legacy of the NASL was, at least, for Canada, it produced some decent enough players to have gotten them to the 86 World Cup. The problem was, by 1986, the NASL was gone, and Canada didn't really have much to work with by the time they were able to get to the World Cup, and wasn't able to maintain it. But once again, all these years later, we hearken back to the time Pele was there. Even in the late 80s, he even was co-starring in a movie. And I had to look this up because I remember watching this movie at the time. There was this movie called Hot Shot, and he played a fictionalized version of himself, a great player, but suddenly left the game and went into hiding. And so this diminutive young American who wanted to become a star soccer player, after getting into a load of trouble, seeks him out in Brazil. And Pele hesitantly takes him under his wing and teaches him so he can become a star. Ironically, back in New York. It was looking back, it was probably a horrible movie, but as I said, wanted to become that. And yeah, he became, a man of all media, a politician, a singer as well. Did acting. And might have been the first to do this, and somebody can correct me. The first time I saw Pele's face, the first time I could ever recall seeing Pele's image, was on all things in the world, of all things, a video game.
I was going to say, I remember he had some NES games named after him for soccer games.
I'm going even
that's telling
further.
because only a few people get that. You know, I mean, their name on a sports game.
Further back, Atari 2600. I remember seeing his face on the cover of a soccer game that came out for the Atari back in the late 70s and early 80s. Just that smiling face. I didn't really know who he was. His career had just ended at that point. I just remember this beaming smile, not really knowing who he was. But I was curious about the game. And it was at a time when I briefly played soccer as a kid, too. Just in those little organized kid leagues that my dad dragged me to, which looking back, I sort of regret not playing anymore. But he was, as far as I know, the first athlete to put his name on a video game, to endorse one. And once again, started another trend that we see and that has continued to this day. I never played the game at the time, but my cousin, he had a cartridge of an Activision game based on ice hockey, we had a lot of fun playing. But then he said he traded it for that soccer game, and he regretted it. I played it not too long around the time he got it, and it was, truth be told, it was actually a pretty horrible game. Maybe I'll put up a YouTube video. I found a YouTube video of somebody playing it, so you can see what it looked like at the time. But once again, it had Pele's face on it. And that's a big part. Like, this is what I see as his legacy at the age I am at. Right? Anybody older will remember him as a player. But anybody, our generation, basically anyone in our age group, will remember him a little bit more as the game's ambassador, not necessarily as a player, but an ambassador, and maybe, depending on where you are, a bit of a pop culture icon too. That's Pele. Gone at the age of 82. But small shame. At least he lived long enough to be able to see this last World Cup. And be able to get his 2 cents in once and for all. It was ironic. One of his last social media posts was him giving tribute to his mother, who had recently turned 100 years old. Yeah, his mom's still around, but by all accounts is not well. From all the descriptions I read, she may have some form of dementia. So she wasn't aware of her son passing away. And yeah, she had Pele as a teenager. But everyone else remembered. Anyway, that's the couple takeaways or things I want to follow up on from episode 75 a couple weeks ago. Let's start to look ahead, or look in the present anyway. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go this week? Do we want to talk about what has our attention coming into 2023? Do we want to talk a little bit about what we've been reading or watching?
I guess we could.
Because honestly, I've been so busy at work. I'll be honest.
I guess we could look at the new season or what we've been watching or playing or that at the end. But if we want to look at maybe the future, we can look at that. I know I had a couple of things. Actually, one I know that was interesting, and I started watching it, thinking of it. Kevin, did you know John Sirabella, the guy that, of course, we all know owns Media Blasters, is still trucking along?
Yep.
A few weeks ago, he opened a YouTube channel.
Huh.
Well.
And so his YouTube channel, I've been looking at a few videos. He's posting a video a day, and some of them are 7 minutes long. Some of them are 3 minutes long. Some of them are 10 minutes long. He sometimes is talking about some of the different things he's done with Media Blasters while he's working out in his gym in the warehouse or showing his office. And another tidbit he told viewers is that he likes to Uber. So if you're in the tri-state area on the New Jersey side, you never know. You might end up having your Uber driver be John Sirabella.
That would be.
I'm not sure how you would feel about that, because I don't think
5
any
stars, dude. 5 stars.
So he's just to clarify, he likes to be an Uber driver, not just riding on Uber or ride shares.
And that's why I'm saying he could be driving you. It's like, and I don't think any anime person running an anime company in North America ever did that as their side job, period.
That's hilarious.
Something. That might just be paramount, or that might just be the testament of how well he's doing if he feels like he needs to use Uber to earn extra money. But he does seem like a bit of an eccentric too. Maybe he just wants to.
No, like you hear about like he talks about his wife, and sounds like they're both doing fine. He said they've had highs and lows, and one of them he jokes about how someone, I guess when they were on the downturn for Media Blaster, they said, "John, why haven't you jumped out of a building yet?" And he explains why he hasn't. He's like, he's too positive on life.
Wow.
And that he could like basically write a book about his stuff. Like, one thing I'll say, one of the videos, it was funny. He said he'll get to different shows, like obviously Berserk, Invader Zim, Voltron, and stuff like that, Kenshin, and things like that, maybe in their own little video. But he talked about different things, and one of them I remember he was saying about one of the titles that could have taken Media Blasters down, and that was near the beginning where he was talking about what was it? The company he had before, Software Sculptures, when he was really young, and they had a deal with Central Park Media with the other John O'Donnell.
Yep.
And then at some point, John O'Donnell and him, John Sirabella, they kind of parted ways at the end of the 90s there. And he started up Media Blasters.
Yeah.
And basically went his own way. He had an acquisition person, and they got stuff for live action, for anime, and he was interested in the live action, which obviously they weren't as into, and obviously they were doing things on the kiddie side, which is the adult side. But the interesting thing was the one title he said that could have taken Media Blasters down. It was a title called Gappa, and it's a live action. It's kind of the monster type live action one, kind of like Godzilla and stuff like that.
Was that the predecessor to Death Kappa that they eventually did put out?
I don't think so, because it's Gaba, but they released it around the time when, remember the first reboot of Godzilla, turn of the century, around 2000 or something like that? So that's why they released it then, because they figured a lot of companies there, they could get on board with this and stuff like that, and get some of those older Japanese shows similar to Godzilla out and stuff like that. So they were doing, I think he said, I'm not sure it was DVD, it might have been VHS, but they put it out there. And supposedly one of the people working for him, they got some trailers of some other shows and then put it on there as well. And I forget which live action one it was, but he said it was a little racy, it was a little risque. It was not obviously the kiddie level or anything like that, right? But it was still mature, right? And supposedly this video ended up being bought, he said, by a grandfather in California for, I guess, their grandson or whatever. The grandson or whatever had watched it, and they said like he is forever scarred or something like that, and basically took I can't remember if it was Blockbuster. No, it was Tower Records. They said they bought a Tower Records, so they took Tower Records to court, and by extension they took Media Blasters to court. And he said they spent 50,000 American dollars for a lawyer and all this other stuff to get thrown out. But he said that almost killed them.
Wow.
And that's not even, and that was just, they didn't even know, he said, like they just said it was Gappa. It was this live action, and they didn't even know what it was. And it wasn't until they went through the process, they found out it was not even the show itself. It was from the trailers and one specific trailer from one of the live action trailers. And I guess it was because it was a little too violent for their liking.
See, well, this is a story as old as VHS, or as old as the existence of the television, where you need to police what your children are watching. That's your responsibility as a parent or a guardian. Like, hell, I let my niece watch me play Shin Megami Tensei 5, which is a rated M game, but I make sure she's not there when Sahori gets stabbed by Lamu and when Tao gets stabbed by Lamu. Yes, spoiler alert, I'm sorry I didn't say that earlier. But
I mean, let's be honest, how many listen to this show?
So, yes, Shin Megami Tensei 5 has a lot of concepts that are very difficult, if not almost impossible for a 5-year-old to understand, but I make sure she doesn't see the excessively violent parts. That's on me if she sees that.
Well, you're...
Just like how it's on the parent to make sure they don't take their 8-year-old son to see La Blue Girl in theaters, or to see any 18 plus or 17 plus film at a theater. And that they don't catch like Harvey Birdman at 11:30 p.m. on Adult Swim, or whatever the example could be that's relevant. Like, come on.
Well, the funny thing was, the irony in all of that was, when we hear the story and stuff like that, is we always talk about the difference between North America and Europe and stuff like that, and how they don't like violence and blood, but they're okay with the sexiness and the sex. But North America is the opposite. And what got them in trouble was violence and blood and stuff like that, which is the irony of ironies.
Oh, yeah.
Given what some of the other things they obviously have put out there, especially on the kiddie side.
It's like, hey, you bought the thing. The TV should not be a babysitter.
But who knows how long John is going to be, but he's been doing like a video a day, a small video a day, so it's interesting to check it out. And maybe I'll have some interesting stories here and there. And he said he's still going to do the conventions and stuff like that, and we've seen him at Anime North and stuff like that, so
He'd be
interesting to see if he comes back.
Would he be an interesting interview for this show?
Yes, that goes without saying.
Okay, remind me to try and get in touch with him,
because he probably will come up this year. He usually comes up.
Yeah, we could just talk. Okay, so that's one thing that caught your attention, James.
And then the other one, I think I told you, Mike, and it's weird because I looked at it, and then they had a tweet from earlier in the year in August, and it ties into the AI art and how people are in an uproar and different things and stuff like that. And Anime News Network had posted something earlier in the week about Shinchosha is a publisher and stuff like that in Japan, and they were going to publish an AI drawn manga by this creator or company called Rootport, using AI software to edit and assemble this supposedly cohesive sci-fi tale, basically reimagining the legend of Momotaro, called Peach John. And it looks like it's trying to go with the Blade Runner type thing, where it's like Neo Okayama and stuff like that, and then him going on his adventure, so to speak. And supposedly, I guess August 10th, they had begun, Rootport, this company had begun posting on Twitter of what they had created and stuff like that. And I guess now they've gotten a publisher, Shinchosha, to actually publish it in a physical form, which is kind of interesting to see how that fares, especially since people are wondering how that's going to shake things up probably in the future and even next year, even though there's a lot of places online that are trying to say we do not want AI art on our platform because it'll cause things to muddy the waters, to say the least, right?
Yeah, I'm aware of the discussion. Every so often, I have artist friends on Facebook chiming in, obviously, basically echoing your concerns, James, the ones that you just brought up. So, I mean, I don't really know what to make of this. I mean, always being a little skeptical about it, especially hearing all these weird stories about AI art. Some people trying to, you know, complete others' sketch own drawings and sketches, and then
We heard
passing them
that
off as their. You've heard
last
that
year,
story.
yeah, and then tried to copyright strike them, and it's like that makes no sense. But people have already tried that last year, and they got caught out on that, and it's like just craziness to say the least. And it's weird, like maybe it could help certain people that don't feel confident in their drawings and stuff like that, maybe reach new heights or something like that, or have confidence in themselves. But unfortunately, with bad actors, I think it'll go more the way of cryptocurrency and stuff like that, which is unfortunate.
As what you believe in? You could see AI as more of like an assisting tool.
Yeah, like certain things, they could be good in them, and there could be ways we could use them for identification purposes. There were some AI things that could do that, but unfortunately, the way the market has decided they want to use them, they're using them in ways that are unfortunately just it just doesn't pass the sniff test. Like they just feel like scam after scam after scam, and then it makes the technology, which may be able to be used for certain good and maybe help certain things in certain areas, to be like dead in the water, which is unfortunate. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, that's what happens: is someone thinks they can use it and make a buck off it, and then it turns it into something even worse, right? And so it just kills everything for it.
Okay. One way to put it.
Like
Okay.
the internet at the beginning, right? We said, oh, this is going to help people connect and all this other stuff, and we're all going to be happy and stuff like that. And look where we are now, right?
Yeah, I know, because in the
Just
way
like
it's
Twitter.
evolved, and yeah. Well,
Actually, we can ask
see
Mo,
what's going
since
on.
Mo is always on the death watch. When is Twitter going to die next year?
I believe it's gonna go bankrupt October of this year.
You heard it here first. Okay.
Unless he
Kevin,
gets the
Mo.
hypertube done, right?
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, exactly. It's gonna go bankrupt, and then he's gonna, get us to Mars. It's all gonna be good. Don't worry, guys.
Or maybe something good will happen on the Tesla side. Kevin, Mo, do you have something you want to bring to the table? At least something that'll have your attention as 2023 starts?
Part two of Bleach. Bleach is really good. I'm really much enjoying that, and I want to see part two.
So I guess we can talk a little bit about the current season in a bit. Kevin?
Uh, so just to quickly ask Mo, you've been watching Bleach and Chainsaw Man, I'm assuming.
Yep.
How are you finding Chainsaw Man?
I don't know, man. It was good, and then it just became like, I don't know. Like, I haven't read the manga, so all this is new to me, and I should be more excited, I guess. But I'm just like, it started off so strong and just kind of got like long, Like I can
What do
foresee.
you mean by long?
It seems like it's gonna go on for like a really long period of time. The whole they have the big bad, and they gotta collect all the pieces, and I don't know. It feels like it's gonna go on for a while.
So you feel like
You,
they're going to do a break and then do another 13, like we've seen with Academia and others, I guess, huh?
That's all but guaranteed at this point.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Like, would you say there was a tonal shift that happened towards the end of the season?
Yes, 100%. Yes.
And
It seemed like in the beginning it felt different. Then at some point, I guess when he starts doing the double killing on stuff, but it's like it shifted. It felt different now. Now it feels more like, I don't know, more serialized shonen long term Naruto Bleach type esque show.
So you don't think it's a good tonal change then?
Yeah,
not really.
as you're saying it, you make it sound like it's a bad thing because it works for some titles, but this doesn't sound like one of them.
I will say, as a person who is reading Chainsaw Man, as new chapters are coming out, because part 2 has started, it's going to change even more, Mo. And let me ask this. Has Reze debuted yet? Do you know who that is?
No idea.
Interesting. She hasn't shown up yet.
We capped off the season with Katana Man and his storyline.
Has anyone died yet? Spoiler alert for anybody who's watching.
The girl with the eye patch. I mean, spoiler, obviously.
Oh, that did happen. Oh, I missed her so much. I liked her.
I guess that me and Mike are gonna have to watch this because I skipped Chainsaw Man this season.
Is there a point? I mean, granted.
No, so I'm of the opinion, among with others, that Tatsuki Fujimoto just is so good with framing his characters and framing the events that unfold in a way that rarely happens in manga nowadays. Some of it may not translate that well into animation, and that's why you saw that silly little petition happen. But
the online petition to redo Chainsaw Man,
which will not happen.
Kind of a little crazy. Well, they've probably done other things like that, but I guess they reported that because it kind of became its own thing, I guess, right?
It's sort of Game of Thrones-esque in many ways to me, at least on the outside as I just read the headline.
How so?
Everybody hates how it's going, and then they want to change it.
Not everyone. I would say that's a vocal minority.
Okay, maybe nonetheless they make themselves known.
But I mean, changes happen all the time, right? I mean, longer running shows have gone through different studios and artists and so forth, right? I mean,
people just don't like the direction. It doesn't have its happy ending. I mean, okay, the other title that always comes to mind is How I Met Your Mother. But
that was, come on, man. But that's different.
Well,
is it though?
It's the vision of whatever the producers, I guess. I mean, yeah, it's just a vision, and it if it doesn't sit well, it doesn't always sit well. It sucks, yes, but that's what fan fiction is for. That's what the discussions are for. Speculating, having fun. Some people maybe take it too seriously. I don't know. Sorry.
I guess it kind of. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead.
No, I was just thinking about the conversation, considering that we've talked more about Chainsaw Man than what Mo said about him enjoying Bleach last season. Those were the two big ones, and Crunchyroll threw their money behind Chainsaw Man, and all the buzz before and after. It definitely, I guess, worked out for them on that one, because it just keeps on getting buzz again and again and again.
Yeah, well, if you believe in the whole idea of, there's no such thing as bad publicity.
I guess the other question is, when you guys were watching, Kevin probably just watched all subtitle, but Mo, did you watch any of the dub then? Because I know they were doing dub and sub almost simultaneously.
I did for Chainsaw Man, kind of went back and forth. I think by 6, I kind of just stopped and went all subbed, but I like the dub. I did the same thing with Bleach. The dubs are getting good, man. They're not terrible.
Well, no, it's interesting because some of them, they are just so simultaneous. And one of the ones I'm watching this season, I'll mention later, is doing the same thing day and date with English and the Japanese for dub and sub. But this season for my Shonen Fix, I ended up watching the second season of Spy Family and stuff like that.
Oh, we'll get to the cues later.
It's interesting that you don't see as many people talking about Spy Family because of all the discourse happening between Bleach and Chainsaw Man and even the newest season of My Hero Academia.
I was going to say, what about Mob Psycho? Mob Psycho was in there too, and it kind of got lost in the shuffle, and it was a big show, remember? It was a big season. That's why I said it was kind of crazy how it all unfolded and all the money probably spent by Crunchyroll and all these other ones.
And you have a lot more girls watching Gundam because of the new season that was airing, and you also have a nice vocal minority talking about Eminence and Shadow and Bocci the Rock. So yeah, seems like this past fall season was very strong by all accounts.
Despite a lot of the attention always being on Chainsaw Man.
See, it's interesting that I don't remember the last time there was so much hype surrounding a show before it aired to the degree that Chainsaw Man got. I really can't think of one, like maybe Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Okay.
Maybe. I'm just throwing out random.
You guys have a better pulse on it than I do.
Titles, but
I don't know.
yet
Well, see, the thing is, they had definitely now the social media engine more revved up compared to, say, what Brotherhood probably would have had way back when. You know what I mean? So it definitely went into overdrive before they even aired an episode or did anything. But obviously, they're so intertwined between the companies now, both overseas and in Japan, and the committees and all that stuff, that they have a good feeling probably well before they even get to production almost. So it's kind of crazy how far ahead we are by the time we get to airing and stuff like that.
Because I was reading Chainsaw Man from the very beginning. This was when I was still actively reading Shonen Jump through the app, and so I caught it right upon its debut. And even like 2, 3, 4 months after it started coming out, it was fascinating to see how popular this manga was getting in various online circles. And it's well deserved. Just the way Fujimoto drafts his storylines and how good the comedic timing is between his characters, which are all a bunch of shitheads by and large, but they're lovable shitheads for the most part. And then the things that will happen later on that will happen in season 2, just the way how Fujimoto kind of has this cinematic eye when it comes to showing the things he wants to show to us, like, it was just so impactful. It really leaves a lasting impression.
Sounds pretty cool in that sense.
And that's why I'm very curious as to what Mohammed and others will think when they end up making another season, because it really is only a matter of when. Because
I predict
it's gonna change. It's gonna change even more.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I predict what happened.
Even though it's just the beginning.
I predict what happened with Attack on the Titan is gonna happen with Chainsaw Man, where that first season was super hyped. A lot of people loved it. Then there probably will be a gap. I mean, obviously between seasons, and then big drop off, and then by the fourth or fifth season, people hop back on, and we'll see.
Yeah, it was interesting to see how that happened with Attack on Titan too. But it was also, I think, with Attack on Titan, it was also because the storyline got pretty political in that middle chunk, and then also just because I guess they wanted to not rush along with the content too much, because they probably didn't have an idea of when it was going to end. But then once the ending happened, then you could more adequately pace yourself in terms of, okay, we can animate this much now.
Yeah, okay.
Just like with Demon Slayer, like how
now that the source material is complete,
like they can do that at a faster clip now.
They can chart its course for its anime presentation. It's one of those, like, of course, we've had this constant discussion of how much each part of the media mix matters, right?
But usually they want it at the same time to rev it all together. But some of them now, they've went back to the well, and even if there isn't anything present at one of them, sometimes they're able to rev that engine again, so to speak, and so they're able to continue that with Demon Slayer, especially because it just hit the mark in Japan, so to speak. It became a cultural phenomenon, as we said, kind of like Pokemon. But thinking on Fujimoto, the creator of Chainsaw Man, that I guess the good thing about the success too is some of his other odd side projects have started to come over, like his one shot, which was over 100 pages, which they brought over in the app, I believe. And it was interesting reading that too, because it was a different look at a different story, more set in modern Japan in that, and more kind of slice of life, you want to say. Did you read that one, Kevin?
No.
Which one?
His one shot. I believe they had it on the app. I forget what they called it, but it was like over 100.
Are we talking Shonen Jump?
There's a few. There's at least
two, I think. But I remember the first one I read, and that's the one I'm thinking.
You're probably thinking of Goodbye Eri, which I regrettably did not finish reading, and I'm told I really need to because I hear that's also fantastic.
But it was an interesting thing that they brought those over, because normally you don't always see those, and a lot of the times with the shonen creators and stuff like that, they're so busy and doing other things, right, that you never see those other sides. You know what I mean? So obviously he's quite a creative force in his own right, as we know.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't seen like periphery works get released this quickly from Viz.
And that was the thing too.
And like, granted, Fire Punch came out before Chainsaw Man, but yeah, seeing like the Looking Back book that came out not too long ago, that was a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah. All right. Well, you have me. It's so much to watch and has me a little bit curious. But that's Chainsaw Man's going to continue, I guess.
And I'll confess, I haven't watched it.
Well, but you seem very well versed in the story to this point.
Yeah, because I've read it.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
okay. I'm sure you can bring it up on the queue at some point and stuff like that if you still have the Crunchyroll subscription, right? After they gave us the good old hike.
Well,
I need to give up on the notion of focusing on watching stuff. I just can't. I just don't make the time. I have to let
you seem better at the manga stuff. That's what it is obvious.
Well, that's just what I end up making my priority in the end. Yes,
well, which is fine. I mean, it's the rest of the story, as a popular saying from the 90s went. But on the note, like coming into 2023, and I guess this is mine, the thing I'm keeping up with. And then, of course, as the year goes, we're going to keep talking, of course. Coming into 2023, one article, and it's related to everything else we've talked about. January 6th, so this is yesterday, 2 days ago. There was this article on Wired talking about how Netflix is repivoting itself in the aftermath of canceling yet another series. This series in particular is 1899, and how sometimes the series it chooses have a dedicated fan base but not enough to sustain it, or global phenomenons like Squid Game. But then there was this, and I want to give the author a little credit, because Angela Watercutter, she had one really interesting quote at the very end of the article, which had me really thinking about where, Netflix could end up going in the future. And we have a sense of it already because of some of the moves that have already happened. And of course, the password thing and the subscription hikes that are going. And I got to quote her because I thought it was an interesting line. Netflix was once the place where weirder, more obscure shows were given space and time to thrive. But the 1899 cancellation shows that the company, like any streamer, is now in the position of having to operate much like the TV networks that came before it. When cable, particularly original programming on cable, came along, Major networks suddenly had much less captive audiences. Streaming has arrived at that inflection point. The good news is that services like Netflix are creating all kinds of lost gems for people to discover later. The bad news is that the companies may not always want to keep those shows around. And I thought that was the first part of that quote was, I thought, really interesting. Having to becoming mainstream to a fault, it sounds like. And it had me thinking about, okay, let's relate it to anime. Because we talked about how they are starting to rethink, seemingly, their anime strategy, committing to less longer series, and those series weren't long to start, maybe at most 12 episodes, but make them more one shots, features, etc. Shorter run series. Yes. So let's relate it to the anime industry. Yes or no? Is this a good thing? Or are we talking too broad right now? And this is just something worth a longer flesh out. Maybe not. Maybe worth a longer discussion and more than just me touching on it right now, briefly.
I think it'll depend on the property and the production committee that they work with, because I think at the end of the day, they look at the outside, as we know, and stuff like that, and that's the North American audience and obviously the Chinese audience and stuff like that. But they still, I believe, look at the home market first. And so there's going to be that factoring in stuff like that of, oh, can I broadcast this in Japan and stuff like that? And how am I going to market it and do all this other stuff with other parts of my strategy and stuff like that, which will be interesting, because we've seen them work with top studios and stuff like that and had some interesting things like Great Pretender and things like that. It's like, if they're going to go shorter episodes and more, I guess, as you said, mainstream, what does that look like and stuff like that? And does it look like what we see here outside of Japan, or with our ideas kind of mixed in, or are they going to take things from Japan that are already taking hold here, and we're seeing that in the NFL with the Shonen stuff and things like that, and maybe work with Shonen Jump or something like that to do a shorter thing with one of their properties? You know what I mean? So
yeah, which now that you've
and
gone
that'd be a
on
hard
that,
thing to do.
yeah, but now that you've brought it up, that line of thinking, comicbooks.com. This was on the 5th. So on Thursday, I believe it is. Headline: Toho announces stake in new shows, including Bee and Puppy Cat and more. And this phrase: Toho has invested ownership into a slew of Western animated series. Basically, Toho is ready to invest in, quote, Western anime, which I think was a line from the article. And as I said, I'm not totally sure that's good or bad. Or it's just the way it's going. It just is. I mean, in some ways, Netflix might have been the trendsetter for the way this is going, but it doesn't want to be anymore. So where does the trend go for anime? Crunchyroll. We just talked at length about the way Crunchyroll is handling a couple things, for better or worse.
People
but maybe
are still debating about things in the new season. I know one of their shows people
okay.
are already talking about, I guess, I'm not sure if you would call it censorship, but a different version of said show showing up on their thing, and the fact that they still don't have, like, they've been adding older shows and that, and the issue of some having home video on the streaming and some not. And that kind of flies in the face when you look at High Dive. And one of their things when you subscribe to them is they specifically have, one of the perks is home video editions. And so you never know if you're going to get that home video from Crunchyroll anymore, like on Blu-ray or physical. So it's like you may never get that complete version and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, we're taking out the terms broadcast edition and then just, you know what I mean? Right? Like, I mean, when you have a broadcast edition, it's quasi-edited, I guess, or somewhat edited, but then you
Depends
have
on how bad the edits are.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff on Netflix, some of the deals they've done, obviously they've had the broadcast edition, stuff like that, but quite a few of them as well, they've been their own original thing and stuff like that. So it's kind of like whatever you got is whatever you got, you know what I mean? And that sounds more where they're going, as you said, with those shorter type shows, maybe 6 episodes, 11 episodes. Maybe they're longer episodes, right? Maybe they're not 23, 25 minutes. Maybe they're closer to 50 minutes or something like that, right? Or maybe, as you said, they're more feature film type one shots and stuff like that.
But here we are. So,
well, we knew it would be coming because we have so many people trying to compete, and so they got to figure out a way to get those eyeballs. And then, as we've seen, they've either raised the prices or they've raised the specter of, okay, we're going to put ads on you. So they originally, as you said, it's like cut the cable cord and come to us, and now guess what? You're back at square one.
Yeah, we are. That's the feeling anyway.
But on the anime side, we're still better off than what we were and stuff like that.
I guess. It's just that, well, it's never going to be perfect. So here's how it's not perfect, right? And I don't know. It's so weird. I mean, there's there's that old man feeling in me that's saying, kids still got it real good these days. Or me saying a bunch of spoiled brats. But I guess I can understand that there's frustration. Because you're never going to get it perfect, I guess. It's just maybe I don't fully understand that frustration. Like I said, I'm not of that age. Remember when I started that Pokemon discussion with Amy and Kevin a couple weeks ago? I said I understand that this is a big thing with Ash finally being written out. But I can't appreciate that. So I asked them to express that. And maybe that's a version of it here. But going into 2023, these are some of the things that grabbed us as we crossed over into the new year. And of course, there'll be plenty of other things later on. Oh, sorry.
I was thinking, funny enough, there was one thing that hit my mind for 2023, and it should come out because we heard it was going to come out. I think it was the end of last year they announced. But that curmudgeon old man, remember? I think Hayao Miyazaki, I hear new movie coming out in the summer.
On the topic of grumpy old men.
How do you live? And so it'll be interesting to see if it goes outside Japan, obviously, by the end of the year and stuff like that. But it'll be interesting to see how that comes out and how that does.
How do you live, Hayao?
But I guess the real question is, after it finally comes out, will he finally retire again? And how long before he retires? I think that's the yes/no we should start the year off with.
Yeah. No, he's not going to retire until that film does better than Suzune.
Well, my theory is he'll
rival competition. Oh my god!
He'll put his awareness into an AI sometime before he dies. So we'll have him in perpetuity.
That's what I'm looking forward to.
I think what the strange part is. I think people could go with that. I'm just saying. Okay. As I said, we'll watch the headlines as they come, and maybe we'll see what other analysis is as 2023 begins.
Oh, I actually, when you initially asked me about things that caught my attention, we got sidetracked because of the whole Chainsaw Man conversation, but so Romantic Killer Volume 2 came out from Viz.
Oh yes, this is here. I did. I saw this in our Discord. Okay, go ahead. And give me a thought.
And once again, as Viz has continued to actively promote this manga to the point where they've even done different videos getting people to try out the manga at cons. They got Kiera Please, a famous African American cosplayer and musician, to even do a video talking about how much she enjoys the manga. There has been a vocal minority of shoujo and josei manga fans who have been complaining to Viz and making sure that they're aware that Romantic Killer is not a shoujo manga. Why are you promoting this as a shoujo manga? So why they say this is because Romantic Killer, when it was being released in Japan, was on the Shonen Jump Plus app and website. So this is like a supplementary digital magazine in Japan where as many as 50 or 60 different series could be being released at once at various different release schedules. So some titles that we know are being published on Shonen Jump Plus include Spy Family, Kaiju number 8, your favorite anime and manga and mine, World's End Harem. Dawn to Dawn is also on Shonen Jump Plus. Hell's Paradise was as well, among other popular and more unknown titles. And it's interesting to see just this whole discourse happening every time Viz promotes Romantic Killer, because it is part of the Shoujo Beat lineup, but it was on the Shonen Jump Plus app. So people are inclined to say that Romantic Killer is a shonen series. Yet, Wataru Momose, the creator of Romantic Killer, I'm pretty sure this is the case, and I was trying to find the tweet for the past 30 minutes, but I couldn't find it.
Mm-hmm.
He expressed that he considers Romantic Killer to be a shoujo manga.
So they're doing it based on the creator's wish, you think?
So the creator considers it to be a shoujo manga. That should be the be-all and end-all of the matter, you'd think.
You'd think, but...
And also, this is not really commonly addressed, but Shonen Jump Plus isn't necessarily a shonen digital magazine, so to speak.
It's just a service.
You could argue that it's more of a service.
Like, I mean, as I hear this story there, I think of an ends justify the means type thing.
Yes. And
am I losing something here, though?
I would say you're not. It's just interesting to see how the shoujosei community, as it's being coined nowadays,
Sure, why not combine words? We do it
that's
all the time.
that is what they refer to themselves as now.
Okay.
The community, the online community that reads, what is usually considered as josei and shoujo manga, are just repeatedly mentioning how this is not a shoujo manga. Why are you not promoting your other shoujo manga as much as Romantic Killer? This is like, for them, it seems like it's a topic of contention, which is in one sense kind of weird, but
I mean, they're not
all the same.
wrong. Sorry, and what's the last word? I
That was
missed that.
interesting all the same.
They're not like on the outside. I feel they're not wrong, but remember when we had that discussion about re-releasing and republishing shoujo manga, and this like we had this discussion in the fall, didn't we? Like the market isn't like the market by itself for shoujo isn't big enough or sustainable enough, at least in comparison to shonen. So sometimes you may have to cannibalize. You may have to have something ride coattails. That's why I use the phrase and justifying the means.
I think it's more
and
of no, I was thinking that obviously this has some buzz and it's got some sales and it's doing well in the shoujo beat line for them, it sounds like. And the creator obviously considers it shoujo, so that's fine. But the other thing is, hopefully, maybe some people that are reading that at the back, maybe they'll check out some other shoujo beat titles and stuff like that. So hopefully, maybe it raises the sales of some other series and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So it can be also a boon. It doesn't have to be a detriment.
That's the thing. It's
Yeah.
well, as I said, ends justify the means to me, and that's what I'm a little.
It almost feels like the people that our spines keep on changing, and they're like, I don't like it that all my spines look different on my manga or on my books. I've just gotten used to it.
Are you to people complaining about it, or just the?
Yeah, I know. I've heard that many a time, and that's kind of what it feels like to a kind of a small degree. They may not like that analogy, but in a way.
Yeah, people change logos all the times. People change labels. Like labels change all the times. Logos change all the times. Brandings change all the time. Try being a soccer fan sometimes in Chicago or Montreal right now, because they've changed their logos once every year.
Quickly on the logo thing, it's interesting to see how with the recent Viz reprints of their older back catalog, like Slam Dunk, like Banana Fish, like Yu Yu Hakusho, they actually did not change the spines, even though that was normally common practice. I think just in the case of the old back catalog titles, they decided to not even spend the time to make those changes, which makes more sense to me.
Well,
yeah, if you already had the files, right? Why not print what you have and stuff like that if it's unimportant, right?
Yeah, it's funny because in the last two previous spine changes with the Viz logo and with the like sub label logos, like they've made those changes. So people who do care about spines being exactly the same, and at least in terms of like the logo and like the Shonen Jump logo and whatnot, like it's just funny to see how like that's the case now.
You know, when you talk about
first
all
world
of this,
problems.
Yeah, first world problems, no kidding. When you talked about this, as you just talked about all of this, I thought of, out of all things in the world, The Price is Right. In the final years of Bob Barker's time hosting Price is Right, the original production company, the Mark Goodson production company that produced the show at the time, got absorbed. I think it was into either Fremantle Media or Endemol. I think it was Fremantle. And they could have changed all the graphics packages to reflect that. They had every right to, but they just let the brandings associated with Bob Barker's time hosting that show remain right up until he finished up hosting. His run was over.
And then when Drew Carey came on, they kind of freshened it up, so to speak.
You know this, right? Or you kind of know where this story's going. Yeah, the Fremantle logos became more prevalent. New graphics package, new feel, new like remixed theme song or redone theme song, and a complete new look to the studio as Drew Carey took over. And it's evolved. It didn't stay in a time warp where maybe at a point Bob Barker's version of the show did.
And we've seen that with some of the other ones they've brought back with some other game shows and things like that, of course. So.
Nostalgia is, it can be good, it can be bad. I mean, you take it all and there you have. But I guess that's a double-edged sword with it. So, first world problems, you're right.
And you know what's also, just going back to Romantic Killer, you know what also kind of, I shouldn't say it baffles me, but this is a testament to how passionate the shoujo community is that they would go and say, well, how come you're not promoting your other shoujo beat titles? Which is true, I have to say, because in this latest round of promotions for Romantic Killer, it's been more on the Viz Media account side rather than the Shoujo Beat account in particular. Which leads me to believe that they don't see much point in promoting it to fans of shoujo and trying to get that broader audience more engaged with it. And
to get engaged with shoujo.
Okay, you know what I'm about to say.
And
you know what I'm about to say.
And it's just like, it kind of, you see, though, this is the way I see it. The Netflix release of that anime happened back in the fall. It seems like it did get traction to some degree. This is the first, like, major, like, I shouldn't even say major, but this is the first shoujo property they had in a while that has had an anime adaptation, a recent anime adaptation, no less. I can't even think of the last time Viz had a shoujo property where the anime and the manga were ongoing. Like, the only ones I can think of that were remotely recent but not really are Anonymous Noise and Yona of the Dawn. Because I will say Viz's shoujo pickings have gotten kind of slim, as we mentioned last time we talked about shoujo manga on this podcast. It seems like their last few pickups, or at least the most recent pickups, were older shoujo manga that for whatever reason they passed on in the past, but now they've decided to pick up. So they picked up, I think, Rainbow Days, I think is what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they picked up Rainbow Days. That's starting to come out now. That anime aired 6 years ago. I think, no, 7 years ago. It aired in it was the winter 2016 season when that show came out. But they're only releasing the manga now in 2023. And I believe they're doing there was another one. I can't remember the name right now. But
we can, we have to move on soon anyway.
Yeah, but
I get.
It's Wolf. It was Wolf Girl and Black Prince, I recall.
Oh, okay.
I believe that's
that
the
title.
one.
That title actually sounds familiar.
I believe that's the one, or it could be. It's not Wolf Boy is mine. That's a different one. But so, and actually, people are saying that the male protagonist is problematic, actually, but they're not always picking up newer titles or what are seen as the more commonly requested shoujo titles as of late.
Maybe
so it makes you wonder how much budget that they have, right?
Yeah.
And so, but it's like, it makes sense that you're going to heavily promote a title that's recent and put all your resources towards that.
But really just take on other routes with it in the process. If that's what
and I feel like most most of the people who are complaining about why aren't you promoting your other Shoujo Beat titles don't really realize this, that of course you need to promote what is seen as the hotter property. Like, because if you go like all gung-ho on promoting, say, Rainbow Days, like, are people really gonna go back to watch a 7-year-old anime? Not likely.
Yeah, just put it on the back cover.
I don't even know if it's still streaming legally right now. It probably is.
Probably is. But then, like, that, I guess that's the purpose of the back cover once in a while.
Yeah, it's
hit anime from such and such.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes, like, one of the ones we'll mention.
I don't know. It kind of seems, from an outsider's point of view, this sounds kind of silly. Like Moh, do you think this is silly? Like, this whole, like, air quotes controversy?
I mean, a little bit.
I mean, what do you mean? I disagree. I think a lot. This is silly.
Like,
and come at me. Sorry.
Like, I wish Viz promoted more of their shoujo lineup too, and I wish that they kept more of their back catalog in print, which they are kind of starting to do, because recently they did reprint some volumes of Nana, some volumes of Kaguya-Sama Kiss. Volume 12 of My Love Story got reprinted recently, and a few others, but then, Lovely Complex is still massively out of print, and that's a title that it seems like numerous people have asked them about.
Yeah.
So, who knows?
Maybe there's a chicken egg argument here.
I guess
it's just like, yeah, you
gotta have a cat. Like, the problem is you can only
more relevant.
Yeah, you need to find your spark somewhere.
Could only print so much, and if they want to send something to the printers, it's got to be worth it to them. And obviously, the Shonen Jump line is the big cash cow, and they can print those larger print runs there compared to the other. But then, as you said, with the digital front, it's still kind of a question mark for them with those things, because we have seen Kodansha go that way with a lot of their shoujo stuff, is go digital.
Yeah, I wish we got more legal shoujo and josei manga, to be honest.
Like, print or whatever means necessary.
Like, digital, to be honest. There's a big gap for that.
Yeah, and I would file that under whatever means necessary.
But because a lot of girls like reading webtoons right now. A lot of girls reading Danmei novels right now.
And that comes back down to our discussion, like the long debate we've had about the merits of ebooks, digital readers, etc. Girls are into that. Okay. All right, guys, let's lighten it up. What's in your queues now? What are you playing? What are you watching? What are you reading?
I was going to say, we could talk about the new season, I guess.
Well, that's
and I'll say a couple of things for the new season. A few things about the new season before I show what I'm playing. But interesting variety of shows and stuff like that. One that's interesting, I'm not sure if Kevin's watched it or read the manga. It's an interesting one because the manga is complete in Japan and North America by 7 Seas, 8 volumes. Tomo-chan is a girl.
Oh, yeah.
I watched that. And Crunchyroll, I guess, is on the committee because day one on Wednesday, they had sub and dub right there. And it kind of feels like the most unlikely series to come back and then be simulcast dub and sub. And so it's a fun one I'm watching because I read the manga. I got them all from 7 Seas. I guess the question, I'm sure Kevin will say the same thing, is we know with 7 Seas is if we see something, usually you want to get sooner rather than later because you never know if it's going to stay in print. So hopefully they actually reprinted Tomo-chan because you never know, right? It might get a bump.
They'd be stupid to not reprint it. Well, I know Tomo was, for quite a while, was going for pretty cheap, but I guess most of those copies have dried up. I don't know. But, back in November, they finally reprinted Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer, even though you could say it was 2-3 months later than it should have been. But, that's probably out of their control with how the printing situation is still.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's interesting in that the other one premiering tomorrow, Vinland Saga Season 2, or as the next arc would be said, Farmland Saga, is going to be going. And so that'll be fun. And it's interesting because obviously the first one was on Amazon. Then last year they put it on to Netflix and High Dive. Supposedly, I'm not sure if it's going to be on Netflix, but it is going to be on Crunchyroll starting tomorrow, going weekly. So it'll be interesting to see if we have a third dub. But the interesting thing with that one is, as we said before, is we do have the ongoing Omnibus 2-in-1, but supposedly at the end of the year, they're doing like this weird, another Omnibus version of a 3-in-1. So obviously they've prepared for that and stuff like that. So that's the other flip of the coin.
That's going to be the deluxe edition, as if this was already not like a nice enough edition as it is.
But yeah, that'll be a good one. Then I guess the one, and I'll mention it because Kevin, you had said you had been reading it. And I was going to mention to Mike, because I know it was on the Yamakyu way back in the day, because I remember a flyer with it, Trigun Stampede.
Yes.
And I know that back in the day in the gallery, and I'm sure he was in the manga there, Kevin, the favorite character, which is back in the new one, Robert De Niro, right? You guys remember Robert De Niro? The partner, the senior to the senpai to Meryl. Streep.
Wow. Yes. I gotta see this.
It's interesting with that. So we've seen a lot of shows come back and rebooted. We talked about Yurtse Yatsura, but Trigun Stampede, this new Trigun, definitely feels a lot different. It's not what I'd say reboot. It's like a retool, reimagination. Studio Orange is doing it. So it's got the CG and stuff like that. Some people had issues, but I enjoyed what I saw with the animation, the CG. They have proven themselves with B-Stars, and I know Amy said that was incredible watching that one on Netflix. So they are.
And I still got to continue that. I still got to continue
B-Stars is pretty good from what I've read.
Yeah.
But Trigun Stampede, this take on it, so to speak, is interesting and stuff like that. It 1 sec, I just want to be sure of
and just as James is checking, Dark Horse is all but confirmed that they're gonna put out Trigun again, because when someone asked, they basically said stay tuned.
Oh, so you think they'll do a deluxe one like Berserk and Hellsing?
They'll at the very least reprint it, if not do a new edition. I think it's, who knows what it'll be, but yeah, this was why I already sold my sets.
Yeah, it was interesting watching that first episode. We talk about no Millie Thompson. We have this Robert De Niro character, and they are, and with Meryl Streep, which is supposedly she is the fresh, young investigative reporter with the old guy Robert De Niro, and they're going after, of course, humanoid Typhoon.
Yeah,
and they start off serious because they start off with Rem and Knives and Vash, and them leaving the ship with Rem waving goodbye to them to the planet and stuff like that. And it's right there. It's not like, remember how in the old one, it kind of was fleshed down over many, many episodes. It wasn't until the second part you kind of got that. And there wasn't as much as what I would call the weirdness, the spaghetti western. It was kind of there with one of the dual fight scenes they had in the first episode. And there was some of the stuff with the place they went to after they meet up with Vash for Meryl and Robert De Niro going in.
Sounds like it gets heavy right away in many respects.
Yeah, definitely. But it definitely has, the fight is like off the wall, so it kind of has a bit of the spaghetti western, the weirdness there, but that's, other than that, it is more serious. And even when they go into this like bar, when they go into this town and stuff like that, and basically Robert De Niro's like, okay, I'm gonna have whiskey and stuff like that, and Meryl's like, no, we should get water. And then she finds out later the reason he was asking for whiskey is because their plant is down and they have no clean water. All the water is dirty and filled with bacteria. So he was doing it because he just wanted whiskey for something to drink.
Yeah, it might have been the safest bet.
But it was weird, like, because you always remember Meryl, like, was the senpai to Millie Thompson and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting. Does Millie Thompson come back? How did they reimagine that character? Wolfwood, we saw in the preliminary art and stuff like that. So he'll come along at some point, and it'll be interesting to see how they reimagine him too, I guess. Because
I will admit I've only seen the trailer or like a little teaser, so I didn't know it was starting to air. But there's one to look out for. Okay.
Yeah, no, it starts. I think it's every Saturday on Crunchyroll.
How many episodes? Just one?
Yeah, one so far, and it's just the sub. But it's interesting because of all of them. It's, as we said, it's pretty much a reimagination. It's not a reboot or anything like we've been used to with all these others. It's a different beast altogether that you rarely see in anime, where they take something existing and say, you know what, we'll take some parts, but we're going to throw it out and mix it all together into something completely different.
It's weird because, well, not weird, but when you think about all of these reimaginings and reboots that have come out in the past number of years, I remember one line when they talked to Kenshin, and I know we will talk Kenshin a little later this year, especially around the time the anime comes out. Let's put that discussion aside. I know there's been a few headlines concerning the upcoming anime with all the issues, etc., etc. But there was one line that came out, I remember, when they started promoting the redone Kenshin, and they just said, we wanted to present the story as it would be in the contemporary techniques we now use in anime. And I thought that was an interesting line. The story is probably tried and true, but the presentation, the way we go about it, the way it's produced, has changed over 20 years. Trigun is more than 20 years old as well. Fruits Basket, at the time it came out, it was approaching 20, it was at least 15. Or to say, Yatsura, let's double and triple those numbers. They just want to reintroduce it, but it isn't as simple as just reintroducing it, showing the old retro stuff, like we talked about a few minutes ago with Shonen Jump, with Shonen titles. You have to kind of use what's presently there in reintroducing.
So every month or two, I secretly pray for a Rave Master remake.
See,
love that manga.
But there it is. But it would have to be worth the trouble to use the techniques we use now. Use the production types we use now.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how it goes with Trigun Stampede in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess in this season, there's quite a few other ones, but there's one I would recommend to you guys to check out that is coming out every Friday on Crunchyroll, and that is Buddy Daddies, and it's an anime original, and it's from PA Works. And sometimes they're hit and miss, but this one looks like it's going to be a hit. The first episode was quite humorful, to say the least. We have these two assassins for hire, and basically it's a Christmas story for the first one, because they go back to Christmas a few weeks before. They're going on a job, and then this job they go on, that they're going to impersonate Santa to get to their target and stuff like that. They run into this 4-year-old little girl who they end up having to take care of. It almost makes me feel like, what was it, Mike? That Ted Danson movie, like Three Men and a Baby or something.
3 Men and a Baby, yeah.
I'm feeling that vibe from it.
We're talking Tom Selleck and Steve Guttenberg as well. And Tom Selleck is still a thing at this point in his life.
But that one, it definitely has great Pretender vibes too, because you have the action, you have the assassin, you have the spy, but then they're just trying to take care of this kid. And at the beginning, when they're in the future, they're in the mission, and then they get, I guess, a call from the daycare, and they're like, oh my God, we got to actually go and deal with this kid right now. And then the target's like, what's going on? And then they just, boom, they headshot him. They're like, let's go and do this. We got to take care of our kid.
I'm looking in my my Crunchyroll app right now. So I just added Trigun Stampede. What's the other title again?
I said Buddy Daddies.
I thought it was Baby Daddies when I first
Buddy
started
Daddy,
the series.
yeah, Buddy Daddies is right there too. So
yeah, so Buddy Daddies is there on Fridays, and that one, trust me, will be a fun one to watch for you guys. Like I've been checking out some other ones. There are definitely still isekais out there. There's actually some video game anime adaptations this season with Nier Automata.
Oh yeah.
The Trails series is doing one as well from Falcom, which they have their own little spin on the it's not Trails in the Sky, which they did a crazy job of just doing the second game of that series as an OVA, but it was the Cold Steel games. That's what they're doing.
Okay.
Trails of
Cold Steel, yeah.
Okay, so I mean, we're gonna keep talking. We could go on and on. Video games.
Well, I guess the last thing, just to say what I was playing, or I guess say reading, is this, which came out for the Switch. I imported, and that's Witch of the Holy Night. And if you're not familiar with that, it's kind of a prequel to Tsukehime, to Fate Stay Night, to the Nasu universe, as some people like to call it.
Nasuverse.
Nasuverse, yeah. But they finally brought a game over. They didn't bring over the Tsukehime remake the year before, but they brought this one out last month. It's on the North American eShops. It has English on it. I went through it. As the review said, it's about 30 hours, and I clocked in with all the side stories, the main story and everything, about 30 hours. So it is more expensive, obviously, but it was worth it going through. Now, the thing is, it's a Connect visual novel. So basically, you're reading. That's all you're doing, is you're reading and going through. There are no choices. There is an epilogue, but the epilogue is where you actually get visual novel choices. And the funny thing is, when I got there, it has a warning telling you if you finish the story, you may want to take a break because it's long. So I did do that, and I'm glad I did, because it was like 4.5 hours to go through that epilogue, which is a murder mystery with choices. But the rest of them, it's just you're going through, you're reading. There is some really cool animation and some action scenes in Chapter 5 and the final chapter, Chapter 12. Obviously, they're not to the same degree as what we're used to with uFotable and stuff like that they work with some of their adaptations. And it's important for this one too, because Witch on the Holy Night, last year when they announced the game, they also announced this is the next project that uFotable and Type Moon are going to work on, and it's going to be a movie. So it'll be interesting to see how they bring this visual novel, which they've updated from 2012 to now, to the big screen, so to speak, just like they did with Heaven's Feel, for example, Fate Stay Night, Heaven's Feel. So
I want a first arc remake.
But all I can say is, maybe I spoiled myself, but they always had, as people said, this unique take from one part of the medium to the next, right? So I'm intrigued how they'll get there. The interesting part on this is, I hope maybe they can go back and do Tsukehime, the remake, and maybe the next part of that, because they have another Tsukehime to get some of the other arcs done. The one thing,
they're making Tsukehime for the first time, you mean? You mean they're making Tsukehime for the first time? It's a new series, it's a new property.
Wow.
Yeah, they're reimagining it. So the first one they released with the 3 storylines, they did reimagining, and then I guess there's 3 more storylines that they would have to do reimagined. The thing is, with what we've done with this, so Aniplex is actually publishing this, and Aniplex of America is actually in the credits and stuff like that, helping for translation and stuff. And it's interesting because we're so used to Aniplex of America with their premier packaging and their high price and all this other stuff. But it feels like they announced this last year that they would have time to get this out the door and make sure the English is in order, right? and hopefully it was on the Chinese side too, because they had some Chinese language options. But it's interesting that for the English translation, while everything's good, it's readable, I was able to go through it. With Nasu's writing and stuff like that, he definitely has a certain style. It may not work for some, but it definitely needed more editing. It needed someone to read over it a little more, because sometimes there were odd sentence structure here and there. There were some things that may take people out, and people in reviews kind of mentioned that, like errors in grammar and stuff like that. Like I saw where I should have seen your, I just see a Y, and I'm like, oh, that kind of took me out. Or something like, instead of phone hung up, it was like it said phone hung, but what they meant to say was the phone rung and stuff like that.
So
Or instead of
very
caught, they actually put cotton instead of caught, and I'm like, well, that's an interesting choice. But you could tell maybe Aniplex of Japan was looking at more than Aniplex USA, but it feels like they needed someone else just to have a fresh eyes and fresh read on it, which hopefully if they ever do anything in the future, like they've only had one other game and it was a Fate spinoff, they can fix the nuts and bolts and stuff like that, because I hope it doesn't make them think that people don't want these on the consoles and stuff like that,
the
on the
problem
Switch or
is,
the
though,
PS4, which is where this released. And Switch is where I was playing it because I wanted to play it portable. It was nice to read on the portable.
Slam. People will hate anyway. That's the sad part. And the question is, would it scare them completely? Okay. Moh, Kevin. Cues. Plays. Reads. What? Or do you have anything you want to mention, or we save it for another time?
Moh can go first.
I mean, I think we've covered it all, right?
Well, is there one thing that you're watching and in our fandom that's worth mentioning, or doing, or playing, or reading that's worth mentioning in our fandom right now, Moh? Anything? I don't think like I think really I think it's just for, in most cases, it's Bleach, isn't it? Is that it?
I mean, yes.
But anything else?
Yes, there was another show.
One show, just
Yes.
one thing, Moh. Contribute to the conversation. Yeah. Well, no, what is it, Moh? Because I'm curious. I am curious to hear what other stuff you've been watching, though.
So there's a new show. It's called Salaryman's Club. Called Badminton. I highly recommend it.
Well, where is it though? Which
It's on Crunchyroll. It's on Crunchyroll.
A lot of them are on Crunchyroll. I know. There's a few on High Dive. They got some.
Or it's Crunchyroll or Netflix in my case, right? Okay. So, and there's well, at least I'll look it up, and I'll probably put that on my queue. Just add it to the rest of the pile. Kevin, what about you? Anything you're watching or reading right now? You know I'm going to be a little bit more long-winded when I go through whatever I'm doing.
We'll see if I beat you to that.
Well, we only
I already beat you guys. I took us over.
James has a good lead. Kevin, okay, let's. I'll give you a couple minutes for sure.
So, in terms of like what I want to watch or consume, you know, Bocci The Rock flew under my radar for the most part, but then now that it recently ended, like seeing some of the positive fan response, as well as like seeing how the creator had to be relocated during Comiket because of how popular her work was, got me more intrigued. So basically, I linked it in the chat, but very quickly, Aki Hamaji, the creator of Bocchi The Rock, was at Comiket a week or two ago, and she had some, like, she was putting out other doujin work, but a lot of people were turning up to see her because, you know, they just watched Bocchi The Rock and they like wanted to support her as a result. So the line management, like, they had to, it got so busy that Comiket had to relocate her outside the usual space where they have tables.
And that's
kind of nuts.
I think
so
the good thing is because they had caps this year, they were probably able to actually do it without as much hassle as in previous years, where it would have been probably tough if they had the old numbers, you know what I mean, pre-COVID.
Yeah. So
it's still nuts to see
yeah.
those photos that you showed and stuff like that, and where they had to put her, right? Like that's
We'll put
on
the
the fly.
articles up.
Crazy.
We'll put the articles up on the website. Yes.
So
Sorry,
yeah, basically she was putting out merch and doujinshi for the Blue Archive game, which is also getting very popular. It's basically like the current. It's like the new Azur Lane or like the new like Toho in terms of like just you know, the hot game property, whether on phone or on line or whatever. But yep, they said at around 10:30 in the morning, Comiket had to move her to a different location, and then she was like apologizing so much on Twitter about how this was happening, you know, because the usual Japanese being apologetic over things that are out of their control and inconveniences to their fans, because that's a thing. It took about an hour for them to move her outside.
Yeah.
And so she took a photo of her booth, and it's like, yeah, just like it's like there's like it's not like a tunnel, like there's like a bridge overhead. And it's like it looks like it's just on like a street. It's kind of amusing in that sense. And then yeah, they cleaned her out like within an hour and a half. Like they sold,
so
she sold everything by then.
Good.
Just the good
right?
thing is it was winter Comiket, not summer Comiket, because
Yeah.
it would have been sweltering if they were outside.
I'm just like, what a wholesome like turn of events that became.
Yeah.
And also it's interesting to see how like some of the guitars that they're using in Bocci The Rock are also selling pretty well from the looks of it. Because that's how it always goes when you use products that are in the show. Because they did use actual Yamaha guitars, if I'm not mistaken, they were Yamaha ones, and yep, those sell well. But that's kind of par for the course whenever these things happen, when like you introduce these things in an anime and then, you know, the anime effect kicks in or the manga effect kicks in.
Yeah.
Because I feel we saw it with K-On! And a few other ones and stuff like that, other
Yes.
guitar and even other things that normally wouldn't sell, started seeing an uptick in all these different odd areas, right? And they kind of tied into that anime or manga or whatever. So it's always interesting.
Yeah. Or how, like, I know in the Drops of God, certain wines that were profiled in certain chapters would just dry up.
Well, even in Yakuza, you have certain whiskeys and alcohols that probably saw a bump.
And I even think of like when certain locales are featured in an anime, like a lot of fans will then make those pilgrimages to that area to that hotel or to this specific neighborhood.
Good for tourism. Always is.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else?
What else do I want to watch?
Or
Something else
mention?
I want to continue watching. Not anime related at all, but last week I watched the first episode of The Expanse.
Oh, that's a good one.
Which was originally a sci-fi network TV show, but got canned. But then Amazon picked it up.
Do you know the backstory about that?
I don't have the full details, but basically, I think it was season 3 is when Sci-Fi decided to can it, but then Amazon decided to pick up this. Like they decided to buy the rights to the shows, and then they were able to like complete whatever that book was up to.
Apparently, Jeff Bezos really liked the show, and like because it's a really expensive show to make, but he personally wanted it. He was like, I want this, and he bought it. So yeah,
it'll be interesting. Like, I mean, on the topic of Amazon, remember their buyout of MGM is almost, I think, complete or almost complete. So keep an eye what happens there.
Plus, and that was a strong first episode. But what were we gonna say, Mo?
I was saying how like Prime is now doing all the subscription channels with like Paramount Plus and all the other, you know, streaming networks, because I was trying to figure out if I should get Paramount Plus. And Amazon kept like integrating it. I guess it's just it's very smart on their part to be the facilitator of other streaming services.
Yeah, like that first episode was a pretty good intro to that world, and just seeing how we find out who the core cast ends up being was kind of a bit of a surprise, I have to say.
Okay.
Mo knows what I'm getting at.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was just like, damn.
He's watching. He's watching.
Like I want to watch it. Like probably will just make repeated trips to a friend's house to watch it because he has the Blu-rays for them, and that's probably how I'm going to force myself to watch it otherwise.
Well, there's motivation for you right there.
Because I don't normally watch too much. Like I don't actively seek sci-fi, but like you like you plunk me down and I'll watch it, and if it's cool, I'll keep on going. Like I don't think too much about the science and how like the sciences works.
Well, at least there's no tie down here. So,
like in terms of what I'm actually like reading and watching and stuff. Let's see. I am now caught up with World's End Harem.
Oh boy.
Because finally made the time to like read like all of what's out in English physically, and yep, it's wild. Like whoa, like the plot part did hold up in the sense that there was more plot, and as a person who's reading trash harem manga, you were hoping that certain girls would finally get their time, so to speak, and they did.
Wow.
That's as much as I'll elaborate.
Sure.
And I don't think James read it, but
no,
but just
I've read, like I kind of take a peek at some of the stuff from Ghost Ship, but I don't buy. But it's interesting that a lot of the stuff they got from Shueisha and Shogakukan and stuff like that Viz didn't want to do, they were okay getting it on a mature line and stuff like that and putting it out, which is kind of interesting. And it's like it'd be interesting to see if they have any inkling to look at any shoujo stuff and maybe do something similar after we talked about that discussion earlier in this podcast.
It's interesting in that other companies have picked up this. I shouldn't say they picked up the slack that Shoujo Beat has left, but like Yen Press also has been pulling from the Hakusensha back catalog, so to speak. So they recently are putting out Tsubaki Lonely Planet, which is a very popular shoujo series, and I forgot, it was a smaller publisher that's putting out Utsotsuki Rhetoric, which is another one that I heard is pretty good. And then Kodansha has actually still been putting out shoujo manga, believe it or not. Some of their digital stuff has gotten physical releases.
I noticed that too, because funny enough, I think it's the longest between digital English and then digital physical, and it's an omnibus, and that's PTSD radio. So I've been
yes, I recall this
looking
one.
at that, and they have 2 omnibuses out, and they're going to have one more out in February because it's only 6 volumes. But that one was digital long time ago. So kind of crazy that it's only started out now, but you never know. There's always a chance, right?
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so with that manga, with World's End Harem, I ended up even reading the scans. So I'm like as caught up as you can be.
Any means necessary.
And so the second arc finally started coming out physically. Volume 13, which starts the Afterworld arc, has come out, and basically it's a new cast of characters and the older characters do come back at various points, but basically because I think basically what I've said before was that most of the men were wiped out.
Mm-hmm.
So in this new reality, the existing men lack sex drive. So you have
Go
so
ahead.
a lot of the surviving men do not want to have sex. So that's the new reality of their world right now.
Why do I feel that is a dig at the current situation in Japan?
Oh, wow.
Link does draw parallels to like how our world is now. Because it was interesting to see how like the pandemic happened while he was drawing that.
Mm-hmm.
Link is the writer, and then Kotaro Sato is the artist. But yeah, it's interesting to see how that has turned out. Some characters didn't make it, which was kind of sad. As in, a couple of them were surprising. But yeah, you know what? Yep. Is it still trash? You bet it is, but I'm here for it.
Nothing like a guilty pleasure.
Oh, it's pretty bad at times, I won't lie.
Okay.
What else I've been reading? Speaking of other trashy manga, I've been reading Gagant as well. It's the newest Oku work. So
did you finish it? Because I know I got volume 10 in December, and that was the final one.
I have 10 in my possession. I kind of did this weird thing where like I kind of like flipped through it. I call it half reading, where it's like I didn't really sit down and read, but I kind of like quickly flipped through it, but I basically did read it. So I got to I think I got to like 6 or 7. But that was when that big moment ends up happening, so to speak. Also, like it's also kind of not kind of, it is dumb. Let's be honest here.
Well, it is what it is if you've read his other previous works.
Exactly.
What's the title again?
Gigant. So it's about a boy who gets acquainted with his favorite porn star, and at the same time there's this online voting site that people vote on, and whatever has the higher vote, the thing happens. And it can be anything ridiculous happening, and it happens. So you can have giant creatures just appearing out of nowhere and terrorizing different parts of the world. But Popiko, the porn star in question, for some reason that we don't know as of this moment, at least, becomes able to become a giant herself, hence the name Gigant. Or so. And if you've read anything by Hiro Oku, like this man is based to become. Yep. Inuyashiki I like a little more. Because I have this strange endearment to like older men who kind of lose their way in life, but then find it again. So that's why I don't know. For me, like Inuyashiki was like really engaging. But Gigant is just so based.
And it also has a nice Welsh corgi in there too. But it was nice, like Gigant and Inuyashiki. It's nice that they were shorter series compared to Gantz.
Yes.
Like both of them were 10 volumes. Inuyashiki had the anime. It's probably still on Amazon Prime. One day maybe it'll have a physical release or be somewhere else, and it'll be interesting to see Gigant if they decide to do an anime or not. But
that's not getting an anime.
The funny thing,
there's no way that's getting an anime.
The funny thing I think about Gigant is we talk about Ghost Ship, and they have all the pervy and the more adult stuff they got from that Viz didn't want. And Gigant is on mainline 7C, so I don't know how that happened, because I would have thought that would have been Ghost Ship. But anyway.
Well, because I feel like with Ghost Ship, it's definitely like it's more harem rom-com kind
Or
of
fan
pervy.
service, yeah.
Whereas Gigant is not, it's not of that aesthetic. Like, yes, it's definitely horny, and you see boobs, and you see penises, and you see everything. There is sex, there's lots of violence, but it's not like, it's not like To Lover, it's not like Ayakashi Triangle, it's not like any of that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And you know what? And why I say I don't think it'll ever get animated is because of the age gap, James.
No, I could see that too. I know, but you never know. Weirder things have happened, right? So
yeah, we have
if
those
they do
possibilities.
OVAs or if they do movies, that's how I would see it.
Well,
Getting
that's what I
animated,
was gonna say. Like, I don't think it
okay.
would be a TV series. I think it
Yeah.
would be direct to video or something like that, because it would probably have more of that '90s edge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jeez.
It's dumb fun of another kind of ilk, I would say.
I'm still
Guilty
amazed we
pleasure,
got
I
it
call
in
it.
physical form over here as a manga, and it was probably based just on the fact creator from Gantz.
Well,
yeah, that man sells now though.
but
Like he has his devoted audience, but I feel like I've read something where I think he's not going to be drawing anymore, but maybe I'm wrong.
well, it's just one of those. Sometimes you just need one title, and then people are curious about anything else later on. Boy,
Yeah.
and with what you guys have listed, whatever I'm watching is absolutely tame, or whatever I'm in doing these days.
Well, I
Okay,
read tame stuff too. Like
yeah,
I've been reading Railgun,
okay. Well, you want
which
to
is a
go?
lot of fun. I love Railgun. First time reading after all this time too, but I'll like elaborate on that another time.
Okay, well, my list, and this is now as we start to end it off tonight. I'm presently in the middle of reading Volume 5 of Kaguya-Sama: Love Is War, because I've been taking
Ooh,
that out
okay.
from the library, right? Yeah, and I guess going into 2023, I'm more and more a proponent of just going to libraries to read manga.
And I think
Yeah,
it's
I
And
great
borrowed
we
Railgun
can
from the
go there
library
and
too.
get manga,
yeah,
period,
I
right?
think it's
Because you
great.
never used to be able to
Whether
do that, right, Mike?
whether it's physical or ebook, and I know if I
Yeah.
as I get to later volumes in Kaguya-sama, if I want to continue, there's more or less just an ebook option.
So they
I think
do
they
have
have the
ebook options for the manga at the library, so that's always good.
yes, and
It's
and
weird because sometimes they have certain volumes and sometimes they don't. So then
yeah, and that's where I
I
am.
mixed and matched for Railgun.
Yeah, and in this case, it's like Toronto Public Library. It's I think they have it up to 18 or 19, but I know there's like a few more, 3 or 4 more volumes since then, and those are all
Yeah.
ebook. And I know there's a waiting list on the ebooks. And
Oh,
I have 4 volumes, so I have a 5, 6, 7, and 8. I have to get through them by next Friday.
oh, you're about just past where I am because
Mhm.
I'm only at like around 4 or 5, I think.
Yeah, good read.
Max.
I'm enjoying it. It's one of those binge reads for me whenever I have
But
real time to read.
so with the other thing with my reading experience with Kaguya-Sama: Love Is War is that uh someone referenced a meme about Kaguya-Sama to me,
And what's that?
and then but it referenced a much later chapter.
And you don't totally get it.
Not necessarily, but I actually got hooked for some reason, and then I actually read like a good 30 or 40 chapters
There you go.
in the middle point, even though I didn't read anything from before because I was just really entertained by it. And so yeah, I spoiled myself on some things.
Well, don't. Maybe I shouldn't know the meme because maybe I want to be a little surprised.
I later learned that I did read the material that is going to be covered in the upcoming movie.
Oh, okay. And yeah, that's a little later this year. So, but I'm as you know, I'm fully caught up on the anime to this point. So that's the read. If I'm able to have a little bit more time to watch, yes, I'll continue the other shows that I've mentioned I've been watching. So, Cyberpunk Edge Runner. What is it? Blue Lock.
How far did you get?
Oh, not still where I stood last time. I haven't watched a single episode. Still on Blue Log. Still on my ex. My stepmom's daughter is my ex. Still trying to get through those shows. Be the Beginning and Beastars. I still want to continue. So much to wanna do right now. And then on top of all of this, just for fun, I decided to load in a game into my PS5 finally, and that game ended up being Hot Wheels Unleashed.
Oh, not Yakuza. Okay.
Not Yakuza. It's on Hot Wheels Unleashed because I just wanted something quick to play. So, and plus maybe I was in a Mario Kart type of mood, if there is one in me. The only thing is, maybe I should have gotten the Game of the Year edition when it was on sale, because it's you just go around trying to collect cars a lot of the time. It's a fun game though, and plus I just wanted to see what it was like to play a PlayStation game again. So that's my list at the moment, and maybe I'll take some time to elaborate as the year goes. But just a couple of things as we start to look further ahead into 2023. Anime North. Okay, let's start to wind this down. Anime North has mentioned a couple of things over the last couple of days. Partner block hotels are partner hotel blocks are now online. Room bookings will open up on Friday the 13th. Cool.
That's not ominous, right?
Yeah.
And they will sell out immediately.
Yes. So yeah, there's now like info for the hotels are now online. So yeah, signups begin on the 13th. I think pre-reg begins the same day, coincidentally. They've rebranded the comic market back into the Artist Alley branding.
Oh.
So Artist Alley, Comic Market and Crafters Corner have merged once again into the Artist Alley labeling. That begins on February 11th. So let's start to look ahead to Anime North. And then just as a final New Year's resolution, well, I have 2 New Year's resolutions. Since we didn't look back on, since I really haven't had a chance to say this yet, 2 New Year's resolutions for this podcast. One, maybe to get to regular episode number 100, but that's kind of an ask since that would be 24 more episodes from where we're sitting right now. But the other is there's a reason we're experimenting with StreamYard and recording on StreamYard right now. There is a video that's presently being made of the episode as we're recording it. We probably won't put that out on the YouTube channel, but it is for me to understand a little bit more how to use StreamYard when we start doing live versions. So hopefully sometime in the next month or 2, we'll do live versions of our Space Heater chats. Right, James?
I guess so. But I will say that Kevin and Moh look very different here than in person.
Yes, they do. They've avatared themselves for as we're recording tonight.
Not the blue kind. Not the blue kind.
Yeah.
I got cosmetic surgery and now I look like Marie from Please Teacher.
Yes. And Moh just plain wants to cover up.
I thought I wanted to be Chainsaw Man.
Yeah, that too. And
man,
the other thing,
it's gotta be the doggy, man.
Yeah.
It's all about Puchta.
Mm-hmm. And the other part is I want to try and get more familiar with this and familiar with playing PlayStation games again, because one thing I have always mentioned I wanted to do is do a little bit more streaming with anybody who is willing to watch live. It's the reason I haven't played Yakuza Kiwami 2, because I thought I could stream it for people, but hey, 2 years in the making.
Oh, okay. I think Yakuza is a streamable game because honestly, some games are not as stream friendly in the sense that
you think Hot Wheels is or isn't. I don't know.
Maybe not. Well, no, you would want to have like multiplayer.
Oh, with that, yeah.
Playing for that.
But Yakuza might be. So, but I want to get used to, the paces on the PlayStation again. So hopefully we'll be able to do something like that and be able to organize a few things and be able to do a few things visually. But something to hopefully look forward to as 2023 rolls along. So as we go, once again, if you want to contact us, animeroundtable@gmail.com, at animeroundtable, animeroundtable.com. Since we've mentioned it, twitch.tv/animeroundtable and our YouTube channel. Coming soon, hopefully real soon. And as for the podcast side, please leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google, Stitcher, Spotify, etc., because good reviews might help the algorithm to shine its light on us. What type of reviews are we looking for, Kevin?
Any reviews.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not necessarily 5-star reviews. We're just desperate for any attention.
But yeah, obviously the 5-star ones are good, but it's always good to
know somebody's
know
out
that
there.
People are out there.
Yeah.
And we know people are.
Both of you.
No, it's like 10 people.
Cool.
There are 10 Mohs?
And you take and you and Mo take up 1/5 of that, right? Thanks for listening. Well, we are halfway through the quota this month. We've already done one thing, and hopefully we'll be able to get one more thing done. The month is early. There's still plenty of January left. But in any event, give us a subscribe, a like, or a follow on any of the platforms we're on so you can be notified whenever we put up something new. Also, if you have a Spotify account, please check out the Anime Roundtable playlist we have up there for a list of music based on the things we mention on this show. The theme song is entitled Fubuki Snowstorm by Piko Misaki, which is the title track of her current album. You can check out more of her music at picoinfinity.com or on her Facebook page at Pico Zen Music. So until next time, thanks for listening, and join us again for another edition of the Anime Roundtable.